العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدمه. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So we'll carry on with Manhaj Saalikeen inshallah, the Sheikh Abdullah Nasir Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. But obviously before starting, Jazakallah khairan to all of you for attending. It's a hot day, there's about a million other places that you could have been, like you've decided to seek knowledge for the sake of Allah inshallah ta'ala, and bi'idhnillah ta'ala you'll be rewarded. Especially at a time where students of knowledge are very small in their number, whereas everyone else has left off seeking knowledge to just a few individuals. Also knowing that even these individuals themselves, or these students of knowledge and these mashayikh, they're getting smaller and smaller in their number. Recently we had the passing away of our brother Sheikh Ismail Booman rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatan wasi'ah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him. And any time that a shaykh, a student of knowledge, a alim passes away, that is a dent into the Muslim community. That's why Abu Ayyub Sakhtiyani rahmatullahi alayhi, he said, إِنَّهُ لَيَبْلُغُنِي رَجُلٌ أَوْ مَوْتُ رَجُلٍ مِنْ أَهْلِ السُنَّةِ فَكَأَنَّمَا أَفْقِدُ بِهِ بَعْضَ أَعْضَائِي. It reaches me, or I hear of the death of a person a man from Ahl Sunnah, and it is as if I've lost a part of myself. If that is a rajul min Ahl Sunnah, a man from Ahl Sunnah, imagine a person who is a person of knowledge, spreading khair and goodness. No doubt that is a great loss to the community, the Muslim Ummah in general, lakin the UK community on a more specific scope. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon him. Allahumma hshuruhu ma'a nabiyyin wa siddiqeen wa shuhada. And that means the role or the responsibility for the rest of us is even greater. So it takes 20, 30, 40 of us to fulfill his role. And any time you find the passing away of someone who's spreading khair in the community, that means a lot of khair has gone, and there's a possibility that a lot of shirk can come about because of that. So we have to strive in seeking knowledge. Strive in seeking knowledge in order to better ourselves, better our community, and better the ummah as a whole. To proceed, we're on Babul Wakala wa Sharika wal Musaqat wal Muzara'a. This is the chapter that we're starting today. Babul Wakala. Babul Wakala is the chapter of allocating or choosing an agency or someone to represent you. So no doubt that has ahkam or rulings pertaining to it. Sheikh Abdullah Sa'di rahmatullahi alayhi is going to mention some of those ahkam. So don't forget, we studied al-rahan, and we studied the buying of usul and furu' and so on, and thimar, bab al-sulh, which was the last one. And now we're going into الوكالة. يقول الشيخ رحمه الله تعالى رحمة واسعة: كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوكل في حوائجه الخاصة وحوائج المسلمين المتعلقة به. So the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Sheikh says that he used to assign people to do or to take care of his personal needs and the needs of the Muslims as a whole. And the needs of the Muslims as a whole. From the evidences for al-wakala is the statement of Allah Jalla wa Ala: إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها عليها, and that is the محل الشاهد. So والعاملين عليها, obviously al-masakin wal-fuqara, you know. لكن العاملين عليها are those that are carrying out the gathering of zakah, those that are gathering zakah from those people that wish to pay the zakah. Now those people are employed by the state by the khilafah, by the state, in order to gather the money of those rich people that are paying zakah, whether it be animals or whatever it may be, the zakat that they're paying. So they are a representative of the Wali al-Amr of the Muslimin. Na'am. Also the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with his personal needs, there's a companion that he sent, Urwat al-Bariqi, and we've come across the hadith on several occasions where he gave the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him a dinar in order to go buy a sheep for him. Then the companion rahmatullahi alayhi radiyallahu anhu, he went, he bought a sheep, and then he bought a sheep for that dinar, and then he resold the sheep, and he came back with he came back with a sheep ala kulli hal and a dinar. And then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for him. So he came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with a sheep and a dinar. The Messenger gave him a dinar already. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the mahal al-shahid is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to go and sell something, or to go and buy something for him, or sell something for him. So that is the mahal al-shahid. Also the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when it came to the hudud or carrying out the capital punishment, there was a woman and a man who fell into fornication during the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is a hadith we talked about last week as well. Like in the mahal al-shahid that we want from now, from that hadith, is that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded one of the companions to go to them and to find out exactly what had happened. And if it is true, then for him to carry out the had. For him to carry out the had. Also, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was performing Hajj, he asked Ali radiallahu anhu to bring his hadi from Yemen. When Ali was coming, Ali brought the hadi of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is, right there are a few examples of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam assigning or choosing someone to carry out his personal needs, and the needs of the Muslim Ummah. Then the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, فهي عقد جائز من الطرفين. فهي عقد جائز من الطرفين. Put a number on top of فهي, or before that, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, put number 1 on top of that. That's the first mas'ala that we studied. And in order to make it easier for yourselves, put mim wahid, meaning that is the first mas'ala, that is the first point that is being discussed. So the كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوكل, the first line of the actual chapter, mim wahid, المسألة الأولى. Instead of writing المسألة الأولى, mim wahid, it makes it easier for you. طيب. The next mas'ala is فهي عقد جائز, mim اثنين. فهي عقد, فهي it is, يعني الوكالة. عقد, it is a contract which is جائز من الطرفين, which is permissible from the طرفين. What does that mean? This is not jaiz when, when we're talking about haram, mubah and so on. They say jaiz, right? Meaning it is permissible. That is not what is meant by jaiz here. The jaiz here that is meant is al-hukm al-wad'i, from the hukm of the wad'i. Remember we talked about the ahkam in usul al-fiqh. What were the two types of ahkam? Al-ahkam al-taklifiyya and al-ahkam al-wad'iyya. Al-ahkam al-taklifiyya are those ahkam that are related to us. يعني haram for us to do this, or wajib for us to do this, or sunnah for us to do this, and so on. And jaiz are those ahkam that are connected, that are a sign for the validation of an act or a contract, such as sahih, fasid, batil, and so on. So when the Shaykh says jaiz min at-tarafayn, it is permissible from both angles. It means a jaizul faskhi min at-tarafayn. Jaizul faskhi. جائز الفسخ أو يجوز الفسخ من الطرفين. It is permissible for both parties to terminate that contract. It is permissible for both parties to terminate that contract. That is the meaning. فهي عقد جائز. مثلا الآن I say to الأخ Mubarak, go and sell this mobile phone for me. Go and sell this mobile phone for me for however much. طيب. A few days later, I say to him, have you sold the phone yet? He says, no, I haven't had a chance to go to the market. I say, okay, do you know what? Just bring me back the phone. I don't want to sell it anymore. I don't wish to sell it anymore. So give me back the phone. What have I done? I have fasakh, I have terminated the connection or the ilaqa between me and Mubarak. That wakala. Is that understood? So it's permissible for me to do that, sah? طيب. What about if Mubarak says to me, listen, I'm traveling, so I won't be able to sell it for you. I thought I'd get time, but dahamani al-waqt and I don't have time. So please take your phone back and ask someone else to sell it for you. Is that permissible for him to do? It is permissible for him to do. That is the meaning by jaiz min al-tarafayn. And from both angles. I'm allowed to nullify it and he's allowed to nullify it. طيب. And al-uqud in general are of three types. We could have studied this, I could have mentioned this at the beginning of Kitab al-Biyu', but I didn't because I wanted to go through a few different types of biyu' in order for you to understand. طيب. The first aqd is aqdun lazimun. Aqdun lazimun. Or you can say lazimun min al-tarafayn. It is binding from both sides. It is binding for or from both sides. That means what? If who can explain to me what that means? If I say it is binding from both sides or for both sides, what does that mean? You've understood the first one, sah? What was the first one? Huh? Fasakh from both sides, meaning both sides are what? Allowed to? طيب. If I say now lazim min al-tarafayn, it is binding upon both parties, what does that mean? Both sides have to fulfill it, so they cannot cancel it. Is that understood? They cannot cancel it out. For example, nikah. Nikah is binding from both sides. You can't come 3 weeks after the nikah and say, you know, قدر الله ما شاء فعل, I made a mistake, I no longer want to carry on with the nikah. خلاص. أفسخ العقد. لا, you can't say that. No, it's not from the husband or the wife. Divorce, that's something else. Al-khul', that's something else. Lakin to just say, I'm going to terminate the contract there and there, no, it's not permissible. Also, al-ijara, buying and selling. Buying and selling, as Babul Ijara is going to come, lakin that is also not permissible. طيب. That's the second type. The third is لازم من طرف لازم من طرف واحد لازم من طرف وجائز من طرف. لازم من طرف is binding from one side or for one party, وجائز من طرف آخر, and it is not binding on the other person. طيب. مثال ذلك. So that example is what? One person, one angle, or one party is permissible for him to nullify and terminate that contract, or that ilaqa, or that mu'amala, or that dealing. Like for the other one, it's not permissible. For example, a rahan. Remember when we were talking about a rahan a couple of lessons ago? A rahan was what? What is a rahan? Put your hand up, Muhammad.
Is it not like a deposit when you owe someone's money, you put it in place until that money is paid in full?
Excellent. So it is you owing someone something, for example, and not having the money at that particular time, but you say to him, hold on to this item until I give you my money back, until I give you your money, until I pay the debt. Right. So a rahan is of two sides, right? There's the rahin, there's the person that is given the rahan, the one that owes the money, he's given them. Then there's the one that is holding on to the item. So for the one that's holding on to the item, that is owed the money, for him it is jaiz. He can say to the person, you know what, I trust you, take your item back. But the other person can't come and say, listen, I want to do fasakh of the aqd, give me my phone and I'll give you your money whenever I get a chance. So that is the meaning that is binding from one angle and not the other. طيب. Inshallah, when we move on, when we study other uqud, we're going to say whether it is binding in tarafain, whether it's binding from both angles or one side, or whether it's permissible for both to invalidate. طيب. So that is the second masala that the Shaykh talked about. فهي عقد جائز من الطرفين. Is that understood? نعم. تدخل في جميع الأشياء. On top of تدخل put ميم ثلاثة. ميم ثلاثة. المسألة الثالثة, the third مسألة. This مسألة, the Shaykh is going to talk about rahmatullahi alayhi, what you can ask someone to do on your behalf and what you cannot ask someone to do on your behalf. يعني ما تدخل وكالة enters into what you can assign someone to do. طيب. The Shaykh says رحمه الله تدخل في جميع الأشياء التي تصح النيابة فيها من حقوق الله كتفريق الزكاة والكفارة ونحوها ومن حقوق الآدميين كالعقود والفسوق وغيرها. طيب. So the Shaykh says rahimahullah, representation is valid in what? In certain things. التي يصح, those things that, or wakala is permissible in those things that you can allocate someone as to represent you. من حقوق الله, when we're talking about the حقوق of Allah, there are two types. حقوق of Allah, there are two types. There's the type that a person is meant to specifically do, such as as-salah, such as the salah, hajj, fasting, and before that tawheed, النطق بالشهادتين, iman. These are the حقوق of Allah, صح? طيب, you can't get someone to pray for you. You can't pay someone, or you can't ask someone and say, listen, today I'm going to allocate you, I'm going to use you as a wakil to pray my 5 daily prayers. That's not permissible. So that's the first type. The second type with regards to the حقوق of Allah is that which you can ask someone to do for you, because the command is not specifically expected from the person himself. For example, taking your zakat to the person that is meant to take the zakat, or that is owed the zakat. وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا. Remember when we said وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا in the verse that we studied? طيب. Those amilin, those people that are going out to collect the zakat is ibadah, is حق من حقوق الله, is a right from Allah, a right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lakin, the fact that this person is collecting it, he's allowed to do that because the collecting of the zakat is not specifically wajib upon every single individual. What's wajib is that they pay the zakat. طيب. Also, wal kafara, expiation. When a person, for example, needs to expiate for a sin or al-half, they can, and they need to, for example, feed, 10 people. They can give the money to someone and say, feed those 10 people. That is haqq min huquqillah. Lakin, you can ask someone to do so for you on your behalf. طيب, is that understood? Also for udhiyah, you can ask someone to go slaughter on your behalf, just like the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, where he slaughtered 63 camels and the rest he asked Ali to do, radiallahu anhu. The hadi. Also the udhiyah, the aqiqah is the same. As for hajj and umrah, a person can allocate a wakil if they're not able to perform hajj due to physical, not having the istita'a, not having the ability to physically go. Is that understood? طيب. Then the Shaykh says, وَمِنْ حُقُوقِ الْآدَمِيِّينَ, and the حقوق of the Bani Adam. Now the Bani Adam, their حقوق are also of two types. كالعقود والفسوق, يعني عقود, the contracts, nullifying or annulments of the contracts. نعم. For example, a person wants to buy a car, like he's not able to travel, he's not able to go to the auction. So he says, listen, go to the auction for me, take this money and buy me a car, such and such car. He can do that. It's bay' wa shira. It is buying and selling. The person is allowed to do that. Also, if a person, for example, wants to return an item, he can say, return this item on my behalf. Return this item on my behalf. Because it's to do with mu'amalat. It is to do with mu'amalat that you can have, or you can allocate a wakil. طيب. Then the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, وما لا تدخله النيابة من الأمور التي تتعين على الإنسان وتتعلق ببدنه كالصلاة والطهارة. لكن as for those things that are specific to a person, then he's not allowed to get someone to do it on his behalf. The Shaykh says tahara and salah. You can't get someone to pray on your behalf. You can't get someone to make wudu on your behalf. والحلف والقسم بين الزوجات. Also oath. You can't get someone to say wallahi on your behalf. Also equal treatment of wives. Whether it's providing for them, spending time with them, you can't get someone else to take care of that and do it on your behalf. وَنَحْوِهَا مِمَّا لَا تَجُوزُ الْوَكَالَةُ فِيهَا. Is that understood? So حقوق, from the حقوق there are certain حقوق, rights that you can ask someone to do on your behalf, and there are those that you can't ask someone to do on your behalf. Whether it's to do with the حقوق of Allah, the rights of Allah, they're of two types, and the rights of the Bani Adam are also of two types. Is that understood? طيب. نعم. ولا يتصرف ميم أربعة. The fourth مسألة. ولا يتصرف الوكيل في غير ما أذن له فيه نطقا أو عرفا. طيب. So now you've allocated someone, you've made a wakil on your behalf. طيب. Surah al-Mas'ala, مثلا, you've got a daughter, your daughter lives in another country, and you're not able to travel back. So you go to your brother, or a relative of yours, and you say, listen, I'm not able to attend the nikah ceremony, but you are my wakil. You're my wakil, and you're to give her away in my absence. Surah al-Mas'ala. You've understood the surah, yeah? طيب. What can that wakil himself do? The uncle in this situation, what can he do? What is he allowed to do? نعم. ولا يتصرف في غير ما أذن له. He can only do that which is permissible for him to do as a wakil, as a representative, whether it's something which is verbally said or what is urfan, known as in the custom of the people. So for example, verbally, the father said, marry my daughter off to such and such person tomorrow. He can't now go, he cannot go and marry her off to someone else. Why not? Huh? It's not permissible for him to do so. He can't say, you know what, I've got a son that is the same age as her, mashallah, khalas. Forget about the other individual, I'll marry them off tomorrow, or even today. He's not allowed to do that. طيب. Or urfan. And also there are things, the custom of the people that is usually the norm. For example, some nikah ceremonies, what happens is, the male side bring a lot of money to the family of the daughter, or the bridesmaid. طيب? Not the bridesmaid, the bride. طيب. So they bring a lot of money. That money now goes to the girl's family, and the girl's family bring half back. In some cultures, they bring half of that money back, and they give it back to those people that gave it to them initially, the boy's side, and the groom side. Like, what happens with that money now? What happens with that money is usually it gets distributed. But the uncle in this situation, he can do what he wants with that money. Normally they distribute it, so that's what he's going to do. So urfan, he's now allowed to distribute it how he wants. Because that is the urf, that is the custom. That is the custom of the people. So that's what the meaning of the customarily what is known as normal. The father did not say to him, listen, that money that goes back, give it to this person, that person, that person, that person. Like in the custom is that it is given and it is distributed equally. Is that understood? So the person, for example, if someone says to you, go sell this item for me and sell it for about £500. The person that is selling it now, he can sell it for £510, £520, £495, £485, something like that. Why? Because that's the norm, give or take. Like he can't go and sell it for £200. He can't sell the phone for £200. Is that understood? Like, as for selling it for more than that, then that is permissible. And that comes under tasarrufun wa fuduli. Tasarruf fuduli. Like in selling it for anything less than that, it is not permissible. Like, so the person that is the wakil, he can only do what he's allowed to do. What he's allowed to do. He can't go out of his own way and do something which he's not allowed to do verbally or according to the custom. Then the Shaykh says, وَيَجُوزُ التَّوْكِيلُ بِجُعْلٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ وَيَجُوزُ ميم خمسة. المسألة الخامسة. ميم خمسة. The fifth mas'ala. Now the fifth mas'ala is, can the person that is the wakil, can he charge? And the answer the Shaykh says, وَيَجُوزُ, it is permissible, التَّوْكِيلُ بِجُعْلٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ. Ju'l, Babul Ja'ala is going to come inshallah. Lakin Ja'ala means that if you say to someone, for example, whoever finds my mobile phone for me, I will give him £100. Whoever mathalan washes this car for me, I will give him £50. That is Ja'ala. You ask someone to do something for you. That is Ja'ala. And it is different to Ijara, like we shall see inshallah. So you can say, the Shaykh says, you can say, whoever sells this phone for me, I will give him £100. Or I will give you an item, something in return for the item that you have sold for me or whatever you've done for me. So for example, you say, listen, act on my behalf at the nikah ceremony and inshallah I'll pay you. That is permissible, the Shaykh says, rahimahullah. Is that understood? وهو كسائر الأمناء لا ضمان عليهم إلا بتعدي أو تفريد. Where the Shaykh says وهو كسائر ميم ستة. ميم ستة. ميم ستة. This is the last مسألة. وهو this person that is the wakil. So in this situation, for example, Sulaiman is my wakil. I've asked him to go and do something for me. The Shaykh says, وَهُوَ Sulaiman كَسَائِرُ الْأُمَنَاءِ. He's the same as all of the other trustees. لَا ضَمَانَ عَلَيْهِمْ. There is no daman, there is no guarantee, there is no compensation that he has to pay. إِلَّا بِتَعَدِّ أَوْ تَفْرِيد. Unless there's transgression or neglect. Unless he neglects something. And unless he uses something or does something that he was not meant to do. Remember when we were talking about Yadul Amana and what? Yadul Daman. Yadul Amana is what?
He doesn't have to pay nothing if any damage happens.
And the Dabid is what? He doesn't have to pay anything if anything damage is done. And what is the Dabid of it, the explanation of it? What is Yadul Amana? When he takes an item? Legally, na'am. With the permission of Allah Jalla wa the Shari', Allah Jalla wa ala, or the permission of the person that is giving it to him. So for example, borrowing something, for example, wakala, and so on. So that person is an ameen. If he's an ameen, that means if anything does happen to the item, he's not liable for it unless ta'addi or tafreed happens. And ta'addi is فعل ما لا يجوز فعله. فعل ما لا يجوز فعله. It is doing that something which is not permissible for you to do. مثلا, for example, someone gives you, says to you, look after this house for me for 4 weeks. If anything happens, normally if there's a burglary, for example, he wouldn't need to pay. Why? Because he's an ameen now. Lakin what if he holds a walima in the house and items are broken in the house? The table is broken, that's ta'addi. He has done something, فعل ما لا يجوز فعله. He has done something which is not permissible. It's not permissible for him to do. So in that case, he's liable for that. Or a tafreed, ترك ما يجب فعله. ترك ما يجب فعله. Leaving that which is wajib for you to do. So for example, the example of the house, leaving the house open. It is wajib for you to what? Lock the door, close the door behind you when you're leaving. Or to leave the windows open. You've left something which is wajib. So if you've left the door open and someone goes in and steals things, then you are liable for that. You can't say, I am an amin. Because you've done something that you're not, or you've left something that you was meant to do. طيب. طيب. The last مسألة ويقبل قولهم ميم 7. The 7th مسألة ويقبل قولهم في عدم ذلك باليمين. ويقبل قولهم, and their opinion or their statement is taken, it is accepted من في عدم ذلك باليمين. في عدم ذلك باليمين. What does it mean? في عدم ماذا? ذلك goes back to what? ها؟ لا التعدي أو التفريد. نعم. So if a person, if something happens to, for example, the house, something happens to the house, right? And then the owner comes back and says, what's happened to what happened to the house? And he says, listen, I don't know, I locked the door and there was no walima in the house, nothing happened that wasn't meant to take place. Allahu A'lam, someone just broke the window, or there was a burglary and I couldn't do anything about it. يقبل قوله, we have to take his statement, we have to accept what he says. يعني we can't say you're كذاب. يقبل قوله باليمين, like he has to say wallahi. He has to say wallahi. ومن ادعى غد, and whoever من ادعى, so that masala is understood. طيب ومن ادعى غد من الأمناء فإن كان بجعل. طيب ومن ادعى غد, and if a person, if the wakil for example, or the one that is the rahan or the mubtahin, if they claim that that they've already returned the item من الأملاء فإن كان بجعل, if it is with ja'ala, then لم يقبل إلا ببينة. It is not accepted unless he has evidence. So for example now, I've said to Sulaiman, مثلا, whoever sells this item for me, I'm gonna reward him. I'm gonna give him £100. Whoever sells this car for me, I'm gonna give him £100. طيب. And then something happens to the car. Sulaiman says, listen, I gave you back the car. Sulaiman says, I gave you back the car. And I say, no, you haven't given me back the car. طيب. من الأمناء, he's an amin, صح? لكن the Shaykh says, who's the amin, me or Sulaiman? Sulaiman. لكن the Shaykh says, فإن كان بجعل, لكن if it is with جعل. What is جعل? Now, if I've said to him, I'm going to give you £100 if you sell it for me, that is ja'ala. The Shaykh says, if it is with ja'ala, لم يقبل إلا ببينة. Then we can't accept his statement unless he has evidence. Evidence that it actually has been stolen or it got burnt or whatever it may be. He has to have evidence. طيب. Why did the Shaykh say that? Oh, let me finish. وَإِن كَانَ مُتَبَرِّعًا. Like if he's a person that was only doing it on my behalf, doing me a favor, and there was no ja'ala. So I said to him, listen, please sell this car for me, and I'll give you a week or two to sell it for me. Jazakallah khair. He's a mutabarri'. That is a favor that he's doing for me. The Shaykh says, قُبِلَ قَوْلُهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. قُبِلَ قَوْلُهُ بِيَمِينِهِ. His statement is accepted. He says, it got stolen, but it wasn't my fault. I don't know what happened to it. I came outside of the house and it was gone. We take his statement, we believe him, بِيَمِينِهِ. Like he has to say, wallahi. He has to give us oath. What has the Shaykh differentiated here?
The reason why.
The reason why he has taken the item on board. If it is بجعل, if it is me rewarding him, then he's liable for it, unless he's got a dalil. And the opposite is what? If he's a mutabarri'. If he's a mutabarri', do we say he's liable for it? Like he has to say what? طيب. Lakin, with regards to the ju'lin, there's another opinion, which is that he's not held to account. He's not held to account because he's still an ameen. He's still an ameen. طيب. Why did I bother explaining وإن كان بجعل لم يقبل إلا ببينة? If I was going to say there's a second opinion and that opinion is stronger. Because that's what it says on the matan. So any time that you come across a matan, even if you believe that stronger opinion, or that is in contradiction to the stronger opinion, you still have to explain the matan. You have the maqsood of the mu'allif, you still have to get that across. And then, if you say that it is the weaker opinion, then you need to clarify why you're saying it is the weaker opinion also. Like you have to explain the matan. You have to explain the matan. So if he's the ameen, and something happens to the item, we believe him. If he says I did not transgress and I wasn't negligent in holding on to it, in looking after it, like in qadarullah ma shaa fa'al, it just happened, we have to what? Accept it and believe him. Sah? Why? Because he is now an ameen. Lakin he has to say biyaminihi, and he has to say wallahi I did not, and so on. Is that understood? Why do we take this? Why do we say biyaminihi? He has to say wallahi, and we believe him. Why do we believe him? Because the asl is adamu tafrid, adamu ta'addi wa tafrid. The asl is that al-aslu huwa adamu tafrid wa adamu ta'addi. The asl is that this person is an ameen, he's trustworthy. I wouldn't choose someone who isn't trustworthy. So the asl is that what? He is trustworthy. The asl is adamu ta'addi and adamu tafrid. The asl is that he wouldn't transgress and he wouldn't neglect anything that I've given him to sell on my behalf or to look after on my behalf. طيب. That is the end of the chapter. Inshallah next week we'll carry on with Babu Sharika. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa ahkamu billahi tawfiq. We'll start on usul min ilm al-usul.